Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into more wisdom from the Gita for Joyful Living?
Always ready.
Great. So today, we're going to tackle this idea of removing obstacles, specifically the obstacles to experiencing true joy,
Yeah.
which, the text connects to self-knowledge, right? I mean, we've talked about how self-knowledge leads to lasting happiness, but it's a gradual process.
Right.
So what gets in the way? What are these obstacles we're up against?
Well, it's interesting. The text doesn't focus on those obvious external temptations. Like, all the things around us that we want.
Ah, okay. So it's not about resisting every delicious dessert or avoiding online shopping sprees.
Exactly. It goes deeper than that. It's actually about desire itself. Desire is the main obstacle.
Desire itself.
Hmm.
So how does that work? I mean, help me understand that a little better.
Okay, so picture this, right? You're offered a big slice of chocolate cake.
Sounds good already.
Now, the obstacle isn't the cake itself. It's that intense desire you feel for it, that craving.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Because that's what leads you to eat the whole thing, maybe even regretting it later.
Exactly. And then you crave more. It's that unchecked desire that throws us off balance, sends us down this path of, always wanting more, never truly satisfied.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the text actually uses a powerful analogy to illustrate this, right?
It does.
Comparing sense objects to wild horses and our intelligence to, like, a charioteer.
Oh, that's a good one.
So when our desires are out of control, it's as if those horses have bolted. They're in the driver's seat.
Yes. And the Gita for Joyful Living really emphasizes this point, that if we keep indulging these desires, we're actually just feeding the fire.
It's like, what? Pouring ghee on a fire just flares up even more.
Exactly.
And I think we've all felt that, haven't we? That wanting more and more, even when we get what we thought we wanted, it's a never-ending cycle.
It is.
So we get it. Desire is the problem. But what do we do about it? How do we overcome those strong desires?
Well, the text offers a three-pronged approach, each one kind of tailored to different levels of, I guess you could say, desire affliction.
Desire affliction, that's a good way to put it. So it's like a personalized plan.
Yeah, you could say that. The first approach is called sensory control.
Sensory control, okay.
And this is for those who are, really easily swayed by their desires. Past experiences with certain things create these strong cravings.
Ah, I see. So the text recommends basically limiting exposure to those triggers, right?
Right. Like, think of it this way. If you're trying to cut back on sweets, maybe avoid walking past the bakery.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Pretty much. Remove the temptation and you remove the struggle.
Smart. Okay, what's the second approach?
The second approach is called mind control.
Okay, mind control, that sounds intense.
It's not as scary as it sounds. This one's for those who have a more, moderate level of desire. They're not completely overwhelmed, but it's still a challenge.
Gotcha. So what's the strategy here?
Well, it's all about stepping back and evaluating those desires before you act on them.
Okay, so instead of just impulsively grabbing another cookie, you pause and think, do I really need this? Will this actually make me happy?
Yeah. It requires mental discipline. You have to be willing to question those impulses.
Make conscious choices.
Right. And then there's the third approach, intelligence control.
Okay, intelligence control, what's that all about?
So this one's for people whose intellect is already pretty strong. Their desires don't run the show, and their choices tend to be naturally in line with their well-being.
So they're already pretty skilled charioteers, but they can still refine their skills.
Exactly. Strengthening their intellect, learning more, helps them make even wiser choices.
Got it. So the stronger our intellect, the more likely we are to make choices that support our happiness. Makes sense. But I'm curious, why are we even plagued by these desires in the first place? Like, what's the root cause?
That is a great question. And the Gita for Joyful Living has a really profound insight here.
Okay, tell me.
It says our desires actually stem from a sense of incompleteness. We see ourselves as limited by our physical bodies and minds, and that leads us to search for happiness in all the wrong places.
So we're looking for external solutions to an internal problem because we haven't grasped our true nature.
You got it. We're searching for something outside ourselves to make us whole, when the true source of joy, the Atman, it's already within us.
And this is where everything connects. Self-knowledge is about directly experiencing that truth, right, of who we truly are.
Absolutely.
And once we realize that, the need for all that external validation fades away.
Exactly. It's like we've been wearing a mask our whole lives, and finally we take it off and see the real us.
So that's the wellspring of lasting joy.
Yeah.
It's already present within us. Wow. Okay, so we've been talking about internal obstacles, but are there any external factors, anything in the text about that, that could hinder our progress?
That's a good question. And the Gita for joyful living is very clear on this point. It says the real obstacles to practicing karma yoga, this path of selfless action, are not external. They're all in our minds.
So it's not about like avoiding difficult people or staying away from tough situations. It's really all about our internal state.
Exactly. External circumstances are inherently neutral. It's our desires, our likes and dislikes that color our perceptions, that create obstacles in our minds.
So even when things are tough, if our minds are clear and we're connected to our true nature, we can navigate those challenges without losing that inner joy.
What's the idea?
Wow, that's powerful. It's really empowering to think we have that kind of control over our experience.
It is. True freedom comes not from controlling the world around us, but from mastering our inner landscape.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered a lot today. The nature of desire, the importance of self-knowledge, the power of karma yoga. What's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember from this deep dive?
I think the most important thing to remember is this. The obstacles to experiencing true joy, they're not out there in the world. They're within us, fueled by our desires and our mistaken belief that we're limited. But the good news is,
We have the power to overcome them. By
yes,
understanding desire, practicing karma yoga, and cultivating self-knowledge, we can break free from those wild horses and experience the joy that's our birthright.